Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. My name is Mckenna Blanthorn and I'm so excited that you've joined me today. Today we're going to be making the St. Patrick's Day candy gift jars. It's a super easy, beginner-friendly project, so let's go ahead and get started crafting. Let's begin by going over the materials we're going to use in today's project. Like I said, this is super beginner friendly, so your materials are actually pretty minimal. We're just going to be using a blank candy jar. You could also use a mason jar that you have at your house. We're going to be using 2 colors of vinyl, but if you want to just do it 1 color, you also could do that. And then we just have some candy that we're going to fill our jar with. I got these little rainbow candies because I feel like they're super festive for St. Patrick's Day. And then we just have some transfer tape. So those are the materials that you're going to need for this project, and now we can go ahead and get started in the software. So here we are in the Silhouette Studio software. This is what it looks like when you open it at default. You can see that I have a lot of tools on both of my toolbars, and that's just because I am using the upgraded business edition of the software, which is a one-time payment that you can buy to just get all of the tools. So if you're using the basic edition, it might look a little bit different and not have quite as many, but everything we're going to be doing today you can do with the basic edition as well. So I have this set up for a 12 by 12 cutting mat with the Cameo and a 12 by 12 media size, but today I'm actually going to be cutting matless. So the only thing I need to change in my page setup is I just need to change my cutting mat to none. And you can see that I have a 12 by 12 page right here. I am using a 12 by 12 sheet of vinyl that I'm going to be cutting matless, so we don't need to change anything else right here. So now I'm just going to hop into my library to grab the design we're going to be using today. And it already sunk with the designs that I just purchased. So I'm going to come up here to my search bar and just type St. Patrick's Day. And I'm going to be using this Lucky to Have You design. So I'm going to double click this to open it in my document. And you can see that it's already 2 colors. So what we need to do is, first off, we need to ungroup it. So I'm just going to right click this design and then I'm going to select ungroup. And you can see that I have all my dark green and then my light green. And today I'm actually going to be using a kind of yellow gold and a like dark green. So I'm going to make my dark green, actually I'm going to make those my gold pieces. So I'm just going to hold down shift and click each of my dark green pieces, and then I'm going to open my artist palette, which is the fill panel, and I'm just going to select like a gold rod color, and then everything that was light green before, I'm just going to make that dark green the same way. So this is kind of a preview of what my design is going to look like. And we can go ahead and resize this now. So to resize it, I'm just going to draw a rectangle over the top of all my pieces and then use these little corner boxes to scale that down. My jar is actually pretty small, so I'm just going to make this about 3 inches wide, and let's see, it's 2.3 inches tall. I'm just going to make sure that that will work on my jar. Okay, I'm going to use my ruler to see what size I should make this. So I just have my little ruler, and actually my jar itself is only like 3.5 inches tall, and the part that doesn't curve is really only like 2.5 inches tall. So I think I'm going to make it a tiny bit smaller even. So it's 2.3 right now. I'm going to make it like 2.25 inches tall. And it doesn't need to be exact. So I'm just going to leave it right there. And then I'm going to zoom in using this little magnifying glass on the top. And we want to make sure that these pieces line up. We're going to cut our yellow and then we're going to cut our green. And so how we're going to do that is I'm going to make a little square just right on top of it. And I do want this to be an exact square. We're going to make it 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to duplicate that square 1 time. So I'm going to hold down my Option key or my Alt key, depending on what brand of computer you're using, and then I just drag that square out, and I'm going to make one of these squares my goldenrod color and one of these squares my green color, and then I'm just going to center everything up. So I'm actually going to place my green square right on top of my goldenrod square. And then I'm going to group my yellow words by just selecting those and then clicking Command G, and then I'm going to group my green pieces the same way, and then I'm just going to drag a rectangle over everything, and I'm going to center everything. And I just did that by hovering over this little top center bar and then selecting Align Center. And this will make it so my yellow and my green square are in exactly the same place. So now all I have to do is click my green square and click my design, and then I'm going to right click and group those together, and I'm going to pull those to the side, and then I'm going to draw a rectangle over all of my goldenrod pieces, and I'm going to right click and group those together. And that is all we have to do to actually set up this design that we're going to do today. So now we can move on to the cutting process. So I'm going to go ahead and move my green piece to the side for now, and then I'm going to put my gold piece kind of over here in the corner, and you will see that these are pretty thin, but that's the great thing about vinyl, is you really can cut pretty thin pieces of vinyl, and specifically words, and have it come out great. So let's go ahead and load our vinyl into the machine, and then we'll keep going. We're going to start with our goldenrod sheet of vinyl. This is Oracal 651, which is my favorite kind of vinyl, and these sheets are really, really nice to cut matless in your machine. So to do that, all we're going to do is we're going to press this upward arrow over here, and then once it starts blinking, I'm going to line up this edge of my vinyl with this little gray arrow and line right here. So I'm just going to click that green arrow, or click that arrow, and then hold it with both hands, and just hold it steady until the machine feeds it in nice and evenly. So that's all we have to do to load our vinyl, and now we're going to be back into our software, where I'm going to go to the Send panel, and then last time I was cutting, I used matte vinyl, so I'm going to change this to glossy vinyl. And then I personally just like to cut my vinyl on a 2 always. That's just my personal preference. So I changed the blade depth from a 1 to a 2. And our machine is connected through Bluetooth down here. I just did that by clicking the Bluetooth button on my machine, and then clicking down here and connecting to the machine that was available. And now all we have to do is just come down to the Send panel and click Send. Sounds like our machine just finished cutting. So once your machine sends the vinyl out, I always like to take my Silhouette hook tool and just try to take a piece out to make sure that it cut correctly. So these words are very, very thin, so I just tried to take out the center of the O, and it popped right out, but then it did stick to my vinyl. So it did cut perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and unload that now, and then we are going to load in our green. And to unload, I just press this little downward arrow right here. Now I'm going to repeat the same exact thing with my green piece. So press that upward arrow, and then line your vinyl up with that gray line and arrow. And it pulls it right in. And then back in the software, I can move my yellow piece over here to the side, and then drag my green piece onto my piece of vinyl that I'm using. And then I'm going to go back to the Send panel, and my cut settings worked great, so I'm just going to click Send. And while that's cutting, I'm actually just going to cut around my little design so that I can save the rest of this piece of vinyl. All right, so let's go ahead and do the exact same thing. I'm just taking my hook tool, and then I'm just going to try and weed out one of the centers of these letters, and it came out perfectly. So I'm just going to go ahead and unload this one, and then do the same thing. I'm just going to cut around my little design. And you could use a scrap of vinyl for this project, and then use your mat to cut it. I just had these sheets of vinyl handy, so that's why I'm using the full sheet and then just cutting the excess away. So now we're going to go ahead and weed our pieces. And like I said, these pieces are kind of small, so we're just going to want to be really careful that we don't miss anything. but with a good vinyl cut, we should be totally fine. So I started at the corner and now I'm just pulling away really, really slowly. And this is one reason that I really like Oracal 651 because it weeds very, very easy. And if it does seem like your vinyl is kind of sticking in one spot, just try and start taking it at a different angle too. And that usually works to wiggle it free. Wow, those little lines are so tiny. And now I'm just going to try and get the little center pieces out of my letters. Yellow piece, our gold piece. Now we're going to do the same thing for our green piece. And this one doesn't have as many tiny details. The shamrocks are really, really small. But the actual letters are kind of bigger and chunky. That came off super great. All right, so there are our weeded pieces. Now I'm just going to take a little piece of transfer tape, and I just like to make my transfer tape about the same size as my design. I'm just going to take my transfer tape and then place it over the top of my green design. And then I'm going to use my little silhouette scraper tool. If you don't have a scraper tool, you could use anything that has a hard edge, like a bone folder or a credit card or anything like that. And I'm just going to get all of the bubbles out and just stick the tape to the design. And then I'm going to flip it over and pull my backing away from my design. And if it isn't sticking super great, my little trick is I like to just make a crease and then it will stick. If you're having some difficulty, and that worked super well. So now I'm just going to take my green square at the very top. I don't want the rest of my design to stick yet. And I'm just going to line this up with the yellow square. And then we can just place the rest of the design on top, stick it down, then take our scraper again and repeat the process with the other design, the other piece of the design, I guess. And then I'm going to flip this backing over and then make it so the yellow sticks to my transfer tape. Sometimes the green will stick back to the backing, so just make sure you don't leave any of your green pieces either. Perfect, and now we don't need our squares anymore, so I'm just going to peel those off and then put them in the trash. And now we get to do the fun part of transferring it to our little jar. So I'm just going to, I made this so it will pretty much fill the entire space of the jar that's not curved. So I'm just going to make sure that I have this facing me centered with the seams on either side of my hand. And then I'm just going to place it in the middle of my jar. And I like to start at the bottom and kind of stick it down and then go up through the middle and then smooth it out on one side and smooth it out on the other side. And I'm just going to take my scraper and smooth everything out. And then just slowly peel away my transfer tape. Your vinyl is usually very sticky, so it usually sticks right to your jar or whatever you're using. I'm going to save my transfer tape by just placing it back on the backing. And then I'm just going to open up my little rainbow candies. And like I said, you could use any type of candy. It would be super cute with like lime green jelly beans, I think. I'm just going to open my jar. And then just dump my little candies in. And then you have a super cute little St. Patrick's Day gift. I love this project. It's super, super easy. It was really, really quick to make, and you could make a lot of them at once by filling your entire 12 by 12 sheet of vinyl with the pieces of the design, and then you can make a lot of them. So thank you guys so much for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy making your own St. Patrick's Day candy jar.